Hello again, Year 7. So, for today's lesson, as I've already suggested, we are just getting some further practice at trying to draw with isometric paper. Now, if you do not have access to a printer, you will have access to the Word version of this file. And what you could do, and I will show you this in a little while, is use the website that we were looking at last lesson to create the images that you need. Take a little snapshot of those images and you could perhaps paste them into the Word file and upload that Word file as part of your evidence. If you can print it out though, that would be much easier for you, and you are physically getting practice at drawing, which is super important. So in my example, it says here is an example of the same L shape from our last lesson. Yes, I've made the L shape a little bit smaller, but it is that same L shape we saw last lesson. And it says it has been drawn from different views as if it has been rotated clockwise. Now what I mean by that, I'm talking about a vertical axis that has been rotated around clockwise. So if you imagine the Earth spinning on its axis, that is a vertical axis. And I mean the exact same thing, that the L shape has been rotated by spinning on this vertical axis. And I've shown you what that would look like through two 90-degree turns. So we have the original shape, a 90-degree turn where the L shape is slightly in a different orientation, a further 90 degrees clockwise, and we are missing the final one. So I'm going to show you how to draw that final one in the correct place. Now, perhaps the easiest way of describing what it's going to look like is it's going to look like this second one as if it's been reflected out the other way. The sticky out bit, as it continues to rotate round, is going to stick out this side. So I'm just going to grab a black pen and I am going to draw in what it would look like. So I'm going to start with this top square face, which would still look like a square. Remember, you should be drawing with a pencil and a ruler. The vertical part that is 3 cubes is still going to be there. But the sticky out bit is going to be this side. And we don't see much of this top face because some of it is hidden by this face here. So that is what the final shape would look like. And if I'm using a similar shading pattern to the 3 that have already been drawn, then this face would need to be the darkest shade because it is pointing to the left like on these 3. I've got the top face pointing upwards that needs to be the lighter shade of grey, which I'll do with crosshatches. And that would also be this part of the face here that we just see. So that would be light grey. And then I'm going to leave this section white. Now, in the other part of the activity, you have 3 shapes where I've asked you to try and replicate what it would look like as you rotated it round. I've given you a relatively straightforward shape to begin with, and ideally you'll be doing this on the sheet if you've been able to print it. So let's imagine you haven't been able to print it. What could you do differently? So if we go back to the website we were using last time, you can see I've drawn one of the questions that you need to do. Now what you could do straight away is you could say, you might be able to do this, you might be able to say, I know what that shape looks like when it's been rotated 90 degrees clockwise. Sometimes you have to put the cubes in a very specific order to get them to appear exactly how you want them to. So what you could do is from there, perhaps use your little snipping tool, copy those shapes onto the Word document as images. If you're still thinking that's going to be really, really difficult, you're not quite sure what it looks like when you visualize it, there is an additional feature that this program allows you to do. But I would say only use this if you're really, really struggling. Okay? What this program allows you to do is actually rotate the shape. And if you click the rotate button, it gives you the option to rotate in 3 different axes. Now, the way that it's set up the axes in this bottom corner, the one that we all would be interested in rotating in is the z-axis. That would be what I would describe as the vertical axis. And if you see, you have a slider to rotate it. But the problem is with the slider, it allows you to rotate it any angle you want. If you actually use the arrow keys, that will rotate it exactly through those 90 degrees that you need. So that is an option if you do not have access to a printer. Have a little bit of a play. Don't worry if you can't get them all done, but it would be nice to see something. Okay, so good luck with that task. I'm also going to put a link to some answers where I have drawn in what the final design should look like, so you can check your working out before uploading something to Teams.